Ryan Keller was the first to notice it, but he never spoke the words aloud. Maybe he understood something the rest of us were too blind or too scared to see. He sat quietly in his truck that night outside the old quarry on Route 9, staring at the darkened tree line as if something had already stepped out and whispered his name. I remember the way he looked when he came back, hours later, hands trembling like he'd gripped something electric and ancient. He didn't sleep after that, just walked through his house muttering pieces of a sentence no one could ever fully catch. Then, on a Tuesday morning that felt just like any other, he opened his front door, stepped onto the porch, turned to say something, and vanished, mid-breath, like a candle snuffed out mid-prayer. No wind, no sound, no trace. Just gone. I didn't believe it either, not until the voicemail came. Not a call, not a recording. A voicemail, time-stamped 5 hours after his disappearance, left on my phone. A number he didn't even have. It was just his voice, low and broken, saying something I still haven't played for anyone else. I won't, because I can't explain the static that drips like something alive behind the words. Can't describe the moment I heard my own name come from his mouth, followed by a sound that made my dog vomit, and the lights in my house flicker, even though nothing around me had changed. I stood there, alone, phone pressed to my ear, feeling like I had just unlocked a part of the world that was sealed shut for a reason. This isn't a ghost story. Ghosts are easy. This is something else. Something older than fear, cleverer than silence. It doesn't haunt places. It haunts moments. A flash of a shadow in a video you've watched a dozen times. A child's first word that doesn't belong, in any language you know. The way your mother hums a tune she swears she's never heard. It's in the cracks, the leftover breath at the end of a sentence. It's how I knew, deep in my chest, that what happened to Ryan wasn't new. It was. He returned, and then came Earth. We thought we were the monsters, that this planet had made us the apex threat, the ultimate Deathworlders. Every species that tried to analyze us through their telescopes and long-range psychic arrays came to the same conclusion. Do not engage. We were the apex variable. Dangerous, unpredictable, mythically violent. They watched our wars and whispered to each other in dead dialects, and still they never came. Not until one of them did. That's where everything split, because the first one who set foot on Earth didn't just arrive, he collapsed. Not like someone dying, not like someone afraid. He collapsed like a marionette whose strings were cut from a dimension no one else could see. His name was said only once by a child in a Nebraska gas station, who'd never learned to speak, but mouthed it with perfect clarity, eyes white with tears, before going catatonic and never waking up again. And when we traced that name, when we finally spoke it out loud, we heard an echo, not from the past, not from another galaxy, but from beneath us. There's a reason they never came, and we were never the danger. We were the containment, and now the seal is broken. But I need you to remember one thing before I show you what comes next. He didn't vanish. He was taken back. There was a moment, right after I said he was taken back, when the room I was sitting in seemed to hum, low and wrong. Not the kind of hum you hear from an old fridge or a dying light bulb. No, this was something deeper, like the inside of a bone remembering a sound from before you were born. My computer screen flickered, only for a second, just long enough for my desktop background to switch to an image I'd never seen before, a photo of a dirt road cutting through pine trees. There were boot prints, one set trailing off into the woods. I stared at it, not breathing, as my speakers let out a burst of static. No, not static, something beneath it. A voice, maybe. My voice. Whispering a phrase I couldn't quite make. But that still made my eyes sting like I'd been up for days. That image vanished just as quickly, replaced by my usual wallpaper, a dull photo of Lake Superior at dusk. But something had shifted. I reached for the keyboard, palms clammy, not even sure what I meant to do. My cursor wouldn't move. Then the file appeared. No warning, no prompt, no download, just a WAV file sitting in the middle of my screen. Like a forgotten relic. One, do you remember now, Wav? I should have deleted it. Every part of me screamed not to play it. But some part of me, curious or broken or both, clicked anyway. The first 5 seconds were empty, then breathing, then my voice, recorded somehow somewhen, saying, "It's not memory loss if..." They were never yours to begin with. I stopped the playback, or tried to. The button didn't respond. "You're not listening, you're just remembering wrong." My voice continued. Then silence, a click, a child laughing. And then the exact sound my dad's front porch used to make when someone stepped on the loose board to the left of the screen door. He died in 2017. The house was sold, demolished a year later. The audio file ended with a soft knock. Not digital, real. At my door, I didn't open it. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I haven't slept right. Not just because of the file. It's everything. Things don't match up anymore. My calendar had appointments written in handwriting that looks like mine but uses words I never use. Adjudicate, bioecho, green seam. I found receipts from diners I've never been to. I pulled my car into a gas station and the attendant said, "Back so soon?" And I didn't know how to answer him because I've never been to Moseley, Ohio. And yet there I was. My car, GPS already programmed for it, the history logged with previous trips, and then Harper showed up. I thought she was a memory at first, the kind that drifts in when you're overtired and holding on to the edge of sanity. But she knocked on my door like she'd done it 1,000 times before, and looked me dead in the eye and said, "You called me back, so talk." Like we were picking up a conversation from the middle, like this was normal. She said we'd been part of something. Listening stations, she called them. Before the fracture, she added casually. Like that meant something. She had scars on her forearms she refused to explain and carried a cassette recorder like it was sacred. Claimed. It had our real names on it, but never pressed play in front of me. Her voice wavered when she talked about Ryan, like they'd shared more than I'd ever known. And when I asked how she knew him, she just smiled and said, "We met on the third loop." I don't know what that means. She's not right. I know that. She sleeps with her boots on, keeps windows covered with black trash bags, refuses to let me plug anything into the wall overnight. But every now and then she says something I can't ignore. She told me, "Your voicemail wasn't meant for you. That was someone trying to warn themselves before the reset. You just got the spillover." I asked her, "Reset of what?" She looked at me like I was stupid and whispered, "Memory is a habitat, not a record, and something's been building inside yours that doesn't belong." I started noticing the gaps. Conversations I don't remember having. Photos in my phone with timestamps that don't match the light in the sky. A tattoo on my shoulder, 3 intersecting lines, that I swear wasn't there last month. I even asked a friend about it, someone I trust, and he blinked at me and said, "You've had that since high school, man. We all got them." I never went to high school with him. We met in college. That I know. And the dreams. They're the worst part. Not nightmares exactly. More like memories of lives that don't fit. I'm always running. Through rooms filled with static. Abandoned train cars or hospital corridors with televisions flickering footage of wars that never happened. Always someone behind me. Never chasing. Just watching. Waiting. And at the end of every dream, I turn, corner and see a mirror, and I'm always older in it, scarred and smiling. There's this file Harper won't let me see, stored in a battered metal case she keeps locked and duct-taped. She calls it the residue. She says it's from Earth, but not this Earth, one where something broke through. I caught a glimpse once when she dozed off, grainy footage of a child standing alone in a shopping mall, surrounded by motionless people, mouths open, all facing her. And she's just staring at the camera, saying over and over, "He's not gone. He's just somewhere the clocks don't reach." I confronted her, demanded the truth, who she really was, what all of this meant, and she lost it, screamed, "You asked for this. You said you wanted to know why you kept dreaming in third person." I didn't even know what that meant. but now I do. Because last night I found a recording under my bed, an actual cassette labeled in smeared red ink. 4. Stop Looking, MP3. Yes, MP3 on a cassette. I played it, I shouldn't have. It was me, again. Crying this time, apologizing. I thought if I left enough of me behind you'd remember faster, but now I see it just draws them closer. Then silence, then scratching, and then the exact voice my sister used to make when she was 5. High-pitched sing-song saying, "You weren't supposed to wake up this time." Everything in me wants to believe this is psychological. A breakdown, grief, trauma. Maybe the brain, when pushed far enough, eats itself. Maybe Harper is a manifestation, a coping mechanism. I want that to be true. But the other night, my laptop, camera turned on by itself, just for a second, and the video feed showed me sitting in that same chair, but I wasn't alone. There was a hand on my shoulder, no face. Just a hand, familiar, pale, burn-scarred. Ryan's hand. Here's the part that I can't rationalize. Last night, my neighbor's kid, Emma, she's 6, walked up to me in the hallway and handed me an old Polaroid. It was a photo of Harper and me standing in front of a billboard that read, "Welcome to Earth, Reset, 07-08. We're both smiling. She's holding my hand. I'm wearing the same clothes I had on yesterday. I asked Emma where she got it. She shrugged. "You dropped it in the woods." There are no woods near our building, and she hasn't spoken since her mom died last year. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know if Harper's trying to help me or pull me deeper. I don't know what happened to Ryan, or what version of him left that voicemail. I've stopped trusting my own memories, stopped trusting sound. I've started seeing things out of sync. The microwave clock says 4:21. My phone says 3:59. I watch my coffee go cold in reverse. I blink, and the room is brighter. The birds don't chirp anymore. They click. But the worst part, the part that keeps me awake, sometimes late at night I'll hear my own voice from the hallway outside my apartment. Not yelling, not crying, just narrating, like a voiceover describing things I haven't done yet. And every time I open the door, there's no one there. Just silence. Until last night. Last night I opened the door, and someone whispered from behind me, "You never left Earth." And now the recordings are starting again. Only this time I'm not in them. I thought I had it. Thought I was finally holding the key, the one piece that would unlock all the confusion clawing at my mind. Like a shadow at dusk. It started with a box. A nondescript battered metal box I found hidden in the crawl space beneath my childhood home during a rare visit back to Michigan. The house had been empty since my parents left, but that night something compelled me to pry open that long-forgotten trapdoor, even though I hadn't stepped foot in that place for years. Inside the box were photographs, old VHS tapes, and scraps of paper stained yellow with age. Fragments of a past I thought I understood, but didn't. The photographs were the first to hit me, images of a man I recognized instantly as my grandfather, but taken in moments I never knew existed. Standing on the same dirt road from the mysterious desktop wallpaper, watching the pine trees as if expecting something to rise from their shadows. The tapes were labeled with dates from the late 70s, a time before any of this should have mattered. I took one and popped it into an ancient VCR I somehow still had tucked away. Static filled the screen, then flickered into grainy footage of a small town gathering, laughter and music echoing faintly through the speakers. But then the frame jerked. A figure appeared, blurred, faceless, but unmistakably present. It moved through the crowd with an unnatural stillness, like a ripple in reality itself. And then the audio dropped, replaced by a low, humming noise that seemed to vibrate beneath my skin. At that moment, the lights flickered and I swore I saw something behind the screen. An eye, just for a blink, watching me. I rewound and played the tape again, slow this time, frame by frame. And then I saw it. My grandfather, standing alone, near the tree line, whispering something inaudible. On the paper scraps in his handwriting was the phrase, The Watcher waits in the silence. I felt a chill I couldn't shake. This wasn't just some isolated family mystery. This was the source. For days I obsessed over these relics, tracing connections between the man on the tape and the strange events unraveling my present. I found a journal belonging to him, pages filled with fevered accounts of dreams and voices, mentions of loops and folds in time, words that matched Harper's cryptic warnings. And then buried between the lines a confession. I am the bridge, the keeper of the memory glitch. I see what they don't want us to remember, I told Harper. She listened quietly, eyes darkening with something I couldn't name. She said, "You're not crazy. They lied to you. The past and present bleed through, and we're caught in the bleed." For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. If my grandfather saw it, documented it, maybe this was the breakthrough, the hidden truth I'd been searching for. But then came the call. It was late, just as I was about to sleep. The phone rang, unfamiliar number, no caller ID. I answered, voice shaking. On the other end, a woman's voice, distorted, crackling through the static, whispered, "They never left. The Watcher never blinks. You're already inside the loop." My heart slammed against my ribs. That phrase, the loop. It was everywhere now, like a curse whispered through time. Then silence. The next morning, I found a photograph slipped under my door. It was the same scene from the VHS, but with one critical difference. My grandfather's face was scratched out, replaced by a dark void that pulsed like a living wound. Written beneath in shaky script was a single sentence. "Memory is a prison you build yourself." I stared at that photo, the edges, curling like burnt paper, and suddenly everything unraveled. The lines between what I'd seen, what I'd heard, and what I remembered blurred until they vanished. The tapes might not be evidence. They could be fabrications, creations of a mind splintered by trauma. Harper, the recordings, the missing. Days. They all folded into a narrative I wasn't sure I was living or imagining, but the deepest unease came from something older. A presence that had been there all along, not in the tapes, not in the whispers, but in the silences between them. It was watching not with eyes, but with patience. It didn't hunt or chase. It waited, lurking in the spaces where memory fractures and reality bends, feeding on the gaps we pretend don't exist. That presence knew me better than I knew myself. It saw every fear I buried, every truth I refused to face. And as I looked, again at that scratched-out face, I realized the worst part. The Watcher isn't outside me. It's inside. It's the reason I forgot, the reason I was called back. Because to escape the loop, I'd have to confront something I never dared to name. A truth so deeply buried that unearthing it would mean tearing down every memory I hold. Dear. The photograph trembled in my hands as a cold wind swept through the room, even though every window was shut. And then, like a slow unraveling thread, a new question rose from the shadows of my mind, one so quiet and sharp that I had to speak it aloud to steady myself. What if everything I thought was real was the lie? And just like that, the entire story, the vanishing, the voicemail, Harper's warnings, the childhood memories, demanded a second look, a different lens, one that could reveal the hidden layers beneath the surface, and the danger that had been watching me the whole time. Because, sometimes, the biggest mystery isn't what's outside your door, it's what's waiting inside your own fractured mind. You're not crazy. They lied to you. And now, you have to decide if you want to keep watching. Or if you want to forget everything again. There's a pattern forming now, one I can't ignore any longer, no matter how deeply I try to bury it beneath layers of doubt and denial. It's not just me. It's never been just me. Every flicker, the static, every crack in memory, every whisper that crawls out from the dark corners of my mind is mirrored somewhere else. Across cities, states, even countries, though none of us have ever met. The internet is littered with fragments of our fractured realities, an anonymous forum where people post cryptic messages with names like Echo Seeker, The Lost Signal, and Watcher in the Dark, all exchanging pieces of a puzzle that grows more impossible to solve the longer we stare at it. shared dreams described in chilling detail, endless corridors with doors that don't lead anywhere, children speaking languages they shouldn't know, clocks running backwards, and always that same overwhelming sense of being watched. It's as if we're scattered remnants of one shattered mind, fragmented across space and time, struggling to piece together what we've lost. The messages come in bursts, images of symbols carved into trees, recurring scratches on walls, and photographs marked with a cryptic X that no one can explain. But the most unnerving part is the sudden appearance of strange symbols hidden in plain sight. Graffiti on subway walls, advertisements with patterns in their designs, numbers etched faintly into street signs that appear only for those who go to look. You were right all along, one message reads simply, as if confirming what I've been too afraid to admit. This is bigger than us, and it's been watching since before any of us remembered. And then there are the recordings. Found footage from 20 years ago, buried deep in government archives that were never meant to surface, leaked quietly to obscure corners of the web by people who disappeared soon after. The videos are grainy, the kind that crackle with age and digital decay, showing faces I recognize, faces from the fragments of my own past, standing in places I know but never visited. The eerie thing is the way those faces blink and twitch unnaturally, as if trapped in some malfunctioning projection. Occasionally, the footage cuts to abstract patterns of light and shadow that pulse in rhythm with a low hum just beneath the audio, a hum that has somehow wormed its way into the back of my mind until I can't separate it from silence itself. Sometimes in the gaps between frames, there's a fleeting glimpse of something, or someone, lurking just out of focus, something that doesn't belong in our world, but has been here all along. It's becoming clear that our identities, our memories, and even our perceptions of control are little more than fragile constructs in this vast, shifting nightmare. The lines between who I am, who I was, and who I might be are dissolving. Some nights I wake convinced I am someone else entirely, trapped behind my own skin and watching from within, a silent observer to my own unraveling. Harper told me once, that memory is a habitat, not a record. And the more I feel that truth settling in my bones, the more I question whether my experiences are mine to claim. Who decides what I remember? Who controls the narrative? And how many versions of me exist across the countless fractured timelines unfolding around us? That's when the third voice appeared. Quiet at first, slipping into my inbox like a ghost. An email with no subject, just a single sentence. You're closer than you think. The watcher knows you're awake. The sender was anonymous, but the message was unmistakably human, typed with a familiarity that set my skin crawling. Over the past week, this figure, who calls themselves the Observer, has sent me fragments of truths I wasn't ready to face, pieces of a puzzle no one else seems to hold. Their notes are careful, written in trembling lines of fear and resolve, speaking of a presence older than any government conspiracy or urban legend, something that predates our history and watches from the shadows with endless patience. They warn that we are being shaped, manipulated, as though our memories and identities are nothing but data points in a vast experiment we can't begin to understand. The Observer claims they've been tracking the pattern for years, gathering the lost and the forgotten, trying to assemble the scattered pieces before it's too late. But even they admit the danger is closer than we think, a force not just watching but infiltrating, reshaping the very fabric of who we are. It's a heavy, secretive truth that seeps into every corner of my waking hours and stains the edges of sleep. The world feels smaller, as though we're all caught in a web we can't see but can't escape, connected by invisible threads of shared confusion and silent fear. The cryptic messages I see, the shared dreams whispered in online forums, the images that flicker just beyond the edge of sight. They're not just coincidence or paranoia. They're warnings, signals sent between fragmented minds reaching out to each other through the void. They tell me I'm not alone. They tell me this isn't a glitch. This is a design. And still, the more I learn, the more I realize how little I understand. The danger isn't just out there in the dark, it's inside me, inside all of us. It's the part of us that remembers too much, or not enough. It's the silent space between our memories where the watcher lives, feeding on doubt and fear and the fragile illusion of control. It waits for us to slip, to forget, to surrender. And when we do, the lines between reality and nightmare blur into a single, endless loop. Now, as I sit here typing these words, I know the story isn't over. It's only just beginning to peel back the layers of truth that have been hidden from us, the truth behind what no one tells you, the truth they tried to bury with silence and forgetfulness. The recordings keep coming, the messages keep piling up, and the presence grows stronger, watching, waiting, patient beyond measure. If you're still reading, you've become part of this too. You see the symbols, hear the hum beneath the noise, feel the unsettling pull of memories that aren't your own. The question is no longer whether this is real or imagined, but what you'll do now that you know. Will you look away, pretend it's just a trick of the mind, or will you step further into the darkness, risking everything to find the truth? Because in this story, the only certainty is the one thing we can't escape. We are all being watched. We are all part of the pattern. And the moment you realize you're inside it, well, that's when the real game begins. The weight of everything, the tapes, the messages, the memories that slipped through my fingers like smoke, pressed down, me like a tide pulling me under. But the truth wasn't waiting out there in some hidden file or encoded whisper. It was inside me, tangled in the fibers of who I was, who I could have been, and who I feared I might become. I'd spent so long searching for what happened, the facts to piece together the puzzle, that I never stopped to ask the one question that now burned through my veins like fire. Why? Why this fracture in reality? Why this relentless watching? This gnawing sense that something, someone, had been shaping every moment of my life? It came to me slowly, like a dawn breaking through a night I hadn't even realized I was living in. The mystery wasn't about the vanishing, or the strange symbols, or even the impossible recordings. It was about what those things revealed about the fragile, desperate human heart trying to make sense of chaos. We are creatures who crave meaning, patterns to hold on to, even if those patterns are lies. We build stories to protect ourselves from the abyss, but sometimes those stories become prisons, and the watchers we fear outside are just shadows cast by our own reflections. The hardest part was admitting that I'd been complicit in my own unraveling. I carried memories that weren't mine, felt emotions that didn't belong, and yet I clung to them like lifelines. It was easier to believe in an external force, a dark puppeteer pulling strings from the void, than to face the truth staring back at me through the cracked mirror of my mind. Maybe the greatest danger wasn't out there. It was within me. I was both the victim and the architect of this fractured reality, caught in a cycle of forgetting and remembering, hoping and despairing. That knowledge struck me with the force of a confession, raw and humiliating, because it meant I couldn't outrun myself. Harper's voice came through the static one last time, softer now, a whisper threading through the chaos. You have to decide, she said. Will you let this destroy you? Or will you find the part of yourself that's still whole, still human? Her words echoed through the hollow spaces of my heart, where doubt and fear tangled with the faintest glimmer of hope. The choice was no longer about uncovering hidden truths or decoding cryptic messages. It was about confronting the darkness inside, about choosing to either drown in it or rise beyond it. And so I stand at the edge of that abyss, now, the watcher's gaze heavy on my soul, the fractured pieces of my identity swirling like ghosts in the wind. To step forward is to risk losing everything I thought I knew, to embrace a terrifying awakening that might shatter my mind or set it free. But to turn away is to remain trapped, forever caught in the loops of memory and forgetfulness, forever watched and never truly seen. In this moment of fragile clarity, I understand that the true mystery is what it means to be human, to hold light and darkness in the same breath, to find courage in vulnerability, to seek connection even when the world feels unbearably vast and unknowable. This story isn't about what happened. It's about why we keep telling stories at all, why we search for meaning in the silence, and why sometimes the most profound truth is the one we dare not speak aloud. So as the shadows lengthen and the hum beneath the noise grows louder, I offer this to you, the watcher, the lost, the seeker in the dark. Maybe you are like me, caught in the web of forgotten memories and silent fears. Maybe this is your awakening too. And if you listen closely, in the spaces between the words, you might just hear the faintest whisper of a promise, that beyond the darkness, beyond the watching, there is something waiting to be found. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for stories you were never meant to hear. Until next time, remember, some truths don't want to be found.